From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, this is From the South, and I'm Sweeney Gray. We begin in El Salvador, where the prosecutor's office has confirmed the death of a protester in the city of Santa Tecla. He was killed during a violent protest police raid ordered by the mayor Roberto Poisson. The victim, whose name is Ivan Alexander Sandoval, was shot in the head by the police as he, along with other workers in the municipal market, blocked the entrance to the market to protest a decree by the mayor that banned street vendors. 64 people were injured during the raid, 12 of them by gunshot. Now, Sandoval died in hospital from his injuries. Mere hours before his death, however, the mayor had said those troublemakers who were injured do not concern him. And the FMLN has condemned the police and the government of Santa Tecla. It demands that the Attorney General's office investigate Friday's tragic events. The party says they hold Mayor Poisson responsible for the violence, arguing that his response is as a result of the intolerance and brutality of the Iranian party. The 17th meeting of the TCP in Nicaragua has concluded, with member countries reasserting their support for the host country, as well as for Venezuela, Bolivia and Cuba, who have resisted foreign attempts at undermining their sovereignty.
Member states are all united in their commitment to maintain their independence and sovereignty, even after 15 years of the organization's creation, to ensure interregional integration.
We want to say that TCP has demonstrated that unity, trust and respect between people through educative, social, cultural and economic projects is possible.
At TCP, members threw their weight behind the Nicaraguan people who are fighting against imperialism. They also demanded that the international community end the economic trade and financial blockade by the United States.
Our unity is a unification of people, and we have seen how ALBA has directly contributed to people living better lives. We need to work to make it stronger so that it benefits the people even more, by reviving its economic capacity and Council of Social Movements.
The delegation also participated at an event where supporters of the Sandinistas with Nicaraguan President Daniel Ortega commemorated the 47th anniversary of the death of one of the founders of the Sandinista movement, Carlos Fonseca Amador.
The support our sister Venezuela has given to the people in the TCP has been unconditional. It has never meddled in the internal affairs of any country. Venezuela has been instrumental in the creation of TCP.
The alliance has vowed to keep fighting on behalf of its people and their dignity. The next meeting will take place in Havana, Cuba.
The bloc has also shown their support for Nicaragua's President Daniel Ortega. For his part, Ortega said he will not allow the Organization of American States to enter the country as a result of the conflict. The meeting took place just 1 week after the U.S. announced new sanctions on Nicaragua, Venezuela, and Cuba.
The Yankee troops were not welcomed, nor did we welcome these interventionist groups that have formed there in the OAS, Organization of American States. They are not welcome in Nicaragua. They would be better off dedicating themselves to solving the problems they have in their own countries. Crimes of death, of instability, of insecurity, of violation of human rights, and they speak as if they were pure virgins that have never violated human rights.
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has warned that he will not tolerate incursions into Venezuelan territory by armed groups from Colombia. Maduro addressed the issue for the first time after 3 Venezuelan soldiers were killed at the border with Colombia by paramilitary forces. The president said he has ordered an investigation to find those responsible.
The
cooling of the peace negotiations with the ELN is scandalous, and Venezuela continues to be a victim of the Colombian war. This year, we have had more than 15 incidents on the borders of Zulia, Táchira, Apure, Amazonas. The first victim of the Colombian War is the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, with its casualties and the violent groups that cross the border to come here.
Students throughout Colombia are taking to the streets to protest the underfinancing of public universities. The National Workers' Union have also joined the fight.
Administration after administration has failed to meet the critical funding needs of several national universities. And as a result, this tertiary institution's deficit has not yet been resolved.
We don't know if this is still not enough evidence of a funding crisis. The building is practically falling apart, so we don't know what else we need to do to prove that there's a financing gap as it relates to public university.
Even though the new government expressed its willingness to hold talks with student representatives, this move is no longer seen as effective because students say there is no political will. This is why they have instead taken to the street.
During a meeting with the dean, students' concerns were not taken into consideration. What they are doing is the 4 points of the IPS, but that will not reduce the university's deficit. Nothing has or will change. The National University has a deficit of over 60 billion pesos.
Tax reform presented by the finance minister have only added to the problem. A proposed VAT increase will force families to dig even deeper into their pockets just to survive. It's a move that is being rejected by many families across Colombia.
Duque, before becoming president, made certain pronouncements, but now he wants to raise VAT, and I don't agree with that.
The workers' union has taken to the streets to protest tax reform and public universities' deficit, among other measures which they describe as unattainable. The union says it will ensure that the voice of the people will be heard as they prepare for the mother of all national strike.
And President Iván Duque has responded to Thursday's protest action.
I want to clearly reject the violent events that took place and paralyze the demonstration of citizens and also affect the safety of the city. All Colombians should reject these violent acts. Violence cannot be a way to express themselves. I want to send my solidarity to the people affected and to the members of police authorities who were attacked. Authorities have to find those responsible so that justice can act on it, since there has been a violation of the Constitution and the law.
Cuba's President Miguel Díaz-Canel is visiting Vietnam as part of his first international tour. Díaz-Canel was welcomed by the Vietnamese President Nguyen Phu Trong. This visit hopes to reinforce ties between both countries in various areas of cooperation. And the Cuban president was awarded with the Order of Ho Chi Minh on Friday. The award is the second highest national honor conferred by the Socialist Republic of Vietnam, and it's given to those who've achieved great merit and outstanding achievements in a variety of fields. Our correspondent in Havana, Fabiola Lopez, has more on the president's visit to Vietnam.
Vietnam is the fifth country President Miguel Díaz-Canel has visited during his international tour. He was welcomed on Thursday by the vice president and then took part in a tribute to the leader of the independence movement, Ho Chi Minh. Later on, he officially met the president, and both men signed an agreement to normalize trade and economic ties between their countries, which has amounted to nearly $240 million. Both countries hope to increase it. Díaz-Canel is also set to meet with Vietnamese entrepreneurs who are interested in investing in Cuba. Cuba and Vietnam have sustained their relationship for nearly 60 years since the days of the Cuban and Vietnamese revolutions. We'll keep you updated on Miguel Díaz-Canel's international tour.
We'll take a short break now. Join us in a few.
An occasion to enjoy the cultural diversity that defines our South American essence. Come along to find out the story behind these personalities, traditions, and artistic expressions that unite us as a whole. Real Lives, Friday, only on Telesur. The ruling world order has always subjugated the masses. But who are the actors behind every move? What are their real interests? We analyze every move on Critical Move. Weekdays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. Many social leaders consider members of the migrant caravans currently in Mexico to be victims of policies in their home countries. We have more in this report.
Right now, this is what Kenya and her daughter call home. They left Honduras over a month ago with 6 other family members. To this young migrant, the end of their long journey northward represents a golden opportunity to have a better life.
I want to keep studying until I am a qualified nurse. And I want my daughter to also have the opportunity to receive a good, sound education.
Honduran migrants said the challenging conditions they live under in their home country only got worse after the election of Juan Orlando Hernández. They described the election process as fraudulent.
I think the legitimate president, the one that the people vote for, is Salvador. If he wasn't given power, I don't think we will have all these problems. This migrants' exodus will not have even happened.
In light of this, migrants from the first caravan have marched in the streets of Mexico City, demanding the United Nations declare a humanitarian emergency in Honduras. The problems they outline are certainly not exclusive to one country.
We call it the Francisco Morazan United People Exodus. Under this banner, we are all Central Americans who have been victims of the oppressive policies of the United States. Therefore, we must stay united.
More than 5,000 Central American people in search of better lives are already in Mexico City. They plan to continue on their journey to United States.
Our correspondent in Mexico City, Eduardo Martinez, is at a migrant shelter with the latest.
Several things have happened in this shelter auditorium in Mexico City. At 6 in the morning, a group of migrants have decided to leave Mexico City towards the city of Querétaro. They reached the Cuatro Caminos station, the one that divides Mexico City and the state of Mexico. From that place, they will continue their journey on foot. But the caravan is now divided. On one side, there's a group which already decided to leave the capital. And on the other hand, there are a majority of families that have decided to stay in Mexico City to keep moving all together, since the next part of the route has been named by international organizations as the most dangerous for migrants, even though they have already crossed the state of Veracruz, which is also very dangerous. Migrants have decided to leave tomorrow at 4 a.m. towards Querétaro City, with or without buses that have been requested by migrants to the United Nations, as help to keep their journey north. Their goal is to reach the border in Tijuana.
And as migrants have once again started to head north, Mexican authorities are allowing some of them to take the metro free of charge. Specially designated wagons have been set up to provide some assistance to the migrants during their long journey. These metro trains are running non-stop to their final destination at the northern edge of the state of Mexico. From there, migrants need to travel by foot to the highway that leads to Querétaro and eventually the U.S. border.
Since we left home, we have known that Trump will not let us in. We are very clear about that, about what we can expect. So we are grateful to Mexico as we never expected all the help they have given us.
And the U.S. President Donald Trump has signed a decree to deny asylum to migrants who enter the United States undocumented. The move is believed to be driven by the migrant caravans traveling to the U.S.-Mexico border. But officials say this rule will apply to anyone caught crossing illegally. This will make people coming from Mexico ineligible for asylum if they enter the U.S. via any place that isn't an official port of entry. The United Nations Refugee Agency has said its legal experts were reviewing this new asylum policy. U.S. spokesperson Barbara Ballock said their experts are examining the new rule to sharply limit asylum claims.
For now, the policy is being reviewed by legal colleagues. I understand it's a lengthy document. It needs to carefully reviewed to come up as a response on it. I hope we'll soon be coming out with something on this. At this stage, nothing to add.
Social organizations in Peru have begun collecting signatures to call for the formation of a constituent assembly. By doing so, they want to change the neoliberal model that they say has only served the corporate sector.
The goal is to get over 2 million signatures that will allow the government to initiate a referendum so Peruvians can be consulted on whether they agree on having a constituent assembly.
We believe that we can achieve this difficult task with the support of other members and organizations at a national level. They are adding up and are calling from all over the country, and we see this as positive.
Around 200 organizations, trade unions, campesinos, and indigenous people have joined together. They are determined to get to everyone in all corners of the country, where neoliberalism has hit people the hardest. They want change and hope that a new assembly will bring them closer to achieving their goal.
Neoliberalism has taken Peru to the situation in which we find ourselves today, where we have 46% of children with anemia, we have 2 million children who do not go to school, we have 2 million young people who do not work nor study, and we have 80% of people working in unskilled jobs, and we have the largest social abyss in Latin America, which is a scary situation, all in the hand of the corrupt. Neoliberalism is synonymous with corruption.
According to social movements, the government of President Vizcarra has only made insignificant changes. They consider the root of the problems to be in the part of the Constitution that deals with economy, and that was approved in 1993 during Fujimori's dictatorship.
We need a new constitution, a new constituent assembly. We need to be heard. All these laws are in favor of whom? Of the peoples? No. These are laws that go against the people.
Although the National Election Jury has not set a deadline to collect signatures, the National Assembly is expecting to achieve its goal before 2021, a date they consider fair for the popular consultation. This will coincide with the general elections.
A court in Chile has convicted a former military chief for the deaths of 15 people during the years of the Augusto Pinochet dictatorship. Juan Emilio Sherry has been sentenced to 3 years and a day under house arrest following an investigation into his role in the murders. Now, Sherry is the most senior figure so far to be convicted for atrocities committed during the dictatorship. He remained a part of the government in impunity after Pinochet was ousted, serving as chief of the armed forces between 2002 and 2006.
He who was protected by democracy, he who was protected by the army, by the authorities. A federal court has said that he is guilty, that he participated in crimes, and that he participated in the execution of 15 Chileans.
Brazilian President-elect Jair Bolsonaro has met his future ministers in Brasilia. He spoke with his appointed ministers at the Bank of Brazil's Culture Center building. He has so far named 6 people to his cabinet, 5 Caucasian men and 1 woman, as well as 27 consultants to advise him during the transition period. The leader of the homeless workers movement and the former presidential candidate Guillermo Boulos visited former President Luiz Ignacio Lula da Silva in prison. According to Boulos, they discussed the formation of a left-wing front to fight against setbacks already announced by the president-elect Jair Bolsonaro.
Lula is doing well. He's encouraging people to continue the fight, to not be afraid, to not let themselves feel let down by the moment that Brazil is living. The social movements will continue fighting for more rights and for democracy.
An Air Jamaica flight crashed during emergency landing at Guyana's Cheddi Jagan International Airport. At least 6 people were rushed to hospital after the aircraft destined for Canada veered off the runway. The pilots had been forced to turn around minutes into the flight due to a hydraulic problem. The plane crashed into a fence at the airport and only stopped after it hit a large sand pile. One jet engine was completely torn off during the emergency landing. There were 118 passengers on board. We'll take a short break now. More news in a minute.
acompañamos a los pueblos que resisten en cada una de sus luchas.
Somos esa ventana que se abre para visibilizarlos entre fronteras.
Thursdays, only on Telesur.
The life is full of moments. Moments of fight. Moments of hope. Moments that transcend. Moments that you can live in. Telesur documentaries. Sundays. Only on Telesur.
Welcome back. The U.S. states of Florida and Georgia are preparing for recounts amid claims of voting irregularities in the midterm elections. In Georgia, where the Republican Brian Kemp held a narrow lead, his political opponent Stacey Abrams has vowed to pursue litigation to ensure that all votes are counted. And in Florida, the governor's race between the Republican Ron DeSantis and the Democrat Andrew Gillum is also heading for an automatic recount. Our correspondent in Washington, D.C., Jorge Gestoso, brings us more on the recount.
Thank you. Very soon we could be seeing vote recount in Florida and in Georgia. In Florida, the Senate candidates, we're talking about Rick Scott, that is a Republican, and the Democrat Bill Nelson, are saying that they want to wait until every single vote is counted, and we're talking that still absentee votes and military votes to be counted. And by noon tomorrow, if by any chance the difference among the two of them is less than 0.5%, there will be a machine recount, and that will be giving results by Thursday. If by any chance at that point the difference will be less than 0.25, there will be a new recount manually of the votes. That is taking place at the Senate level. At the governor level, we're talking about here the Andrew Gillum. There's a Democratic candidate against Ron DeSantis. And Gillum, that is an African American, was already conceding victory to Ron DeSantis. But as soon as the votes would continue to come, the difference was so small that it went up to 0.4%. And same thing, they're waiting to all the votes to come, including absentees and also military votes, to see what is going to happen. In the neighboring state of Georgia, it's considered too close to call the election. We're talking about 65,000 votes of difference between the candidate, and we're talking about here Brian Kemp, that is the Republican, and Stacey Abrams, a female, and an African-American female. There are 65,000 votes away, but again, they believe that as soon as all the votes will be counted, at that point they will decide if it's going to be a recount or she's going to concede. Supposedly, the difference is such a large amount that was very clear the victory of Mr. Brian Kemp. But again, the closer to the very end, the closer the difference, and therefore that opened the possibility of recount of the vote. So we keep an eye on both states, and that will be interesting to define who is going to be the senator representing Florida, and who's going to be the governor representing Florida and the governor representing Georgia. We get back to you now.
Police are treating an attack in Melbourne, Australia as an act of terrorism in which one person was fatally stabbed and 2 others injured. Initially, the police responded to report of a car on fire in the city centre, but later they found out that people had been attacked. A man has been arrested and taken to the hospital in critical condition. The Philippines' former First Lady Imelda Marcos has been sentenced to prison for corruption. An anti-corruption court has sentenced Marcos to serve a 6 to 11-year prison sentence. The court has ordered the arrest of the 89-year-old, although she still can appeal. 3 people were rescued from the water after a ferry collided with a boat just off the Spanish island of Gran Canaria. Video footage posted on social media showed the aftermath of the collision. The Coast Guard managed to bring all 3 passengers on board to safety with minor injuries. Investigations are continuing into the cause of the incident, which occurred on Thursday. Multiple suicide bombings at a hotel in the Somali capital of Mogadishu have left at least 17 people dead. Witnesses say twin car bombs exploded outside a hotel, followed by gunfire and a 3rd blast, killing 17 people on the spot. Mogadishu faces frequent bombings at the hands of Al-Shabaab, an Al-Qaeda affiliate fighting to overthrow the government. And finally, indigenous Bolivians have paid tribute and prayed to the skulls of their loved ones during the annual festival of De las Ñatitas. Devotees adorned the skulls with flowers and coca leaves and danced outside the church with them. The Ñatitas festival, which translates to as the little pug-nosed ones, is a pre-Hispanic tradition that combines indigenous beliefs with Catholicism. And that brings us to the end of this news brief. For these and many other stories, you can find them on our website at teleusenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Tell Us Your English, I'm Sony Gray. Thank you for watching.
An occasion to enjoy the cultural diversity that defines our South American essence. Come along to find out the story behind these personalities, traditions, and artistic expressions that unite us as a whole. Real Lives, Friday, only on Telesur.
We are always there tracking the news. We seek equality. We defend the truth. It's a hard job, but we are not alone. We count on a new ally.